Hey everybody, and welcome back to another session of microlearning. We're going to continue our topic of leveraging our WIDA can-do descriptors, but now we're going to take a little bit different focus. We're going to analyze data. So you should have already downloaded all your classes or all your groups of your WIDA can-do descriptors name chart. That was our task for last week. And now when we're going to analyze data. So when we got feedback from you all a couple weeks ago, so our elementary and secondary, of about what do we need more clarification on? Where do I need more support? One of the things that kept reoccurring over and over is something about data, analyzing data, support with data, how to interpret data. So the best starting point for me is talking about our WIDA can-do descriptors because this is our data that we need to focus on. So let's go ahead and get started. So our next, what I want to make sure that we are all understanding and we all have a foundation of is our proficiency levels. So the WIDA can-do descriptors are divided up by proficiency levels as well as the 4 domains of reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So if you look right here, you can kind of see the different proficiency levels, but I want to point out a couple of them. If you look right here, this 3.0 to 3.9 developing, the majority of our students across the district and probably in your building as well are falling between that 3.0 to 3.9, meaning they're at that developing, that intermediate level. And this is the part where we plateau. That's really hard to jump over that next level to get to that expanding, and then so that we can exit at a 4.8 or also get into that close to that reaching so that we're a native like speaker. And so I want to talk about the can-do descriptor. So I'm going to show you a can-do descriptors name chart that I pulled off of one of our teachers. And when we start looking at the can-do descriptors, here are a few questions that you can come back later and look at and kind of use to help guide you through this process. And I just kind of wrote those down. But let's go ahead and take a look at some can-do descriptors of a teacher's class that they currently have. So when I downloaded this, and so here you have a class, a typical class, and we're looking at the WIDA can-do descriptors for listening. And when I look at my class, I'm like, okay, all right, I don't have anybody in the ones. It looks like most of my kids are falling in this this 3 and 4 level. I'm like, all right, okay. So let me look at this one. Oh, well, look at here, my speaking. Literally flip the chart. So look at all these kids that are in this entering level, this beginning level. And here is this beginning level for my speaking. That's something I probably need to take note of. Let me go on to the next one. Oh my goodness, look at my reading. Same thing. The majority of my kids, look at my reading. Look how many more kids are in reading in comparison to even there's maybe 1 or 2 less kids in this speaking piece, but my reading is really heavy on this 1 and 2 and 3 area. I have a few over here. Great, fabulous. I know who they are. I think they're probably on target for their reading comprehension and understanding. Now let's take a look. Okay, so here's my writing. Oh, wow. Okay, so I don't have anybody really. I have like 1 person in the ones, but the majority of them are falling in that, again, that intermediate level. But when I start looking at these 4 domains of reading, writing, speaking, and listening, to me, when I was analyzing this and kind of looking at what I'm just kind of looking at everything and comparing things, I kind of felt like my 2 areas that are on fire, my 911 areas is speaking and reading for this particular class. Now remember, not all classes are the same. This could be my first hour, but my third hour could look completely different, or my first group or my third group or my first grade versus my third grade. So everybody's going to look different. So this is why not only do we focus on each individual classroom, but we're also focusing on individual students. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, so how can I get more kids out of this level 1? Because I feel like I have a lot of kids in level 1 in speaking and reading. So here is one great strategy that you can do: partner reading. When I partner reading, one student's going to be reading, one student's listening. Then we flop, the other student's reading, and the other one is listening. But I actually get three birds with one stone in this case, right? The kids are going to be reading for comprehension, speaking, and listening. And this is a quick 5-minute activity, 3-minute activity. Grab a partner, take the passage, take the book, whatever we're doing, and we're going to read. Now, I want you to think about this. Why is this so important? When the brain is developing and when we're talking about acquiring another language, whether we acquire the language the first time, the second time, the third time, when kids are in elementary school and they begin kindergarten, first grade, and second grade, kids that are learning how to read cannot read silently in their head. Why can't they read silently in their head? Because when I've never heard these sounds, I've never heard these words, I have to practice them out loud. I can't just automatically start reading silently and think that they're understanding and comprehending. I have to vocalize these sounds. I have to verbalize these words, and I have to put these sentences and periods and commas. All this goes together as part of comprehension and that fluency in reading. So when students are reading, even in the secondary, they have to be orally reading out loud so that this will ultimately help with their reading comprehension, will increase their speaking, will enhance their listening. And then ultimately, what we're wanting to work on is that writing again. And with writing, what's happening is that how we learn how to write better is because we can speak the words. So I have to speak words before I write words. So if we did that one turn and partner read, we're doing speaking, reading, and listening. And then I'm going to take that reading piece and that speaking piece and I'm going to turn it into a writing assignment. And then we're going to see an increase in all these and we're going to start moving levels. All right, so let's kind of go back. I have one last thing that I want to share with you. So our PLC task this week, how can we use the can-do descriptor? So in your PLC and in your discussion, I want us to think, because I think this is where we kind of been stuck and this is where we're at. It says, how can we use the can-do descriptors to plan instruction rather than simply identifying proficiency levels? I think that we know how to identify proficiency levels. Now, how can I use those to plan instruction? And your other question I want you guys to discuss together is, what is one change we can make in our instruction based on what we have learned from the charts? If you have any questions, need anything, you know where I'm at, please reach out. Thank you, and we'll talk next week on another edition of Microlearning. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.